Welcome back, all of you MCU fans and fans of myself and Tim.
Howdy.
Maybe our one person. We went about things differently this weekend. We just watched Infinity War and Endgame as a
Mhm.
tandem rather than watching everything in consecutive order
Yep.
because it made sense. And before we dive into thoughts that Tim and I had, we asked a question for everybody, and we wanted to know if you could harness the power of one of the Infinity Stones, which one you'd choose? It seems like a very fitting question for this week, and a lot of people
Mhm.
go a lot of different routes. And we actually had some really fun, creative responses. Um, my favorite, I think, being Jeanette's. She said, "I'm going to go with the Space Stone. I can teleport wherever, whenever, and save so much time and money on travel. The Mind Stone would be too mean for me because controlling others seems wrong. I ain't fucking up timelines with the Time Stone. And I'm pretty mad on power and reality." I love that response. Corey Mosier Kesserling agreed 100%. And he said there's nothing more economical than teleportation based off of prehistoric minerals. Uh, Tim Chip, he said since they work differently in the movies than the comics, he would say with the comic stones, he'd choose reality, but he loves the ability to understand human history. And he would take the time stone. Joe Manerick, our buddy from the Reason for the Season Drive, he says he doesn't want any of the stones. He just wants to say, "I am inevitable" all the time. Which I feel like he walks around the dealership snapping his fingers saying that. Our guy Paul Brenner said the time stone for him. Preston Monagle said he'd have to choose space for the ability to teleport places. Reality would be cool too because you could change people's daily reality to make them believe that you are there with them when in fact you're at home relaxing. You know, he mentioned that, and I kind of got excited because I'm like, man, there have been so many things I've been invited to that I didn't want to be at. That would be incredible, rather than me scowling in the corner. And our good buddy from Rhinos, Mike Cosgo, he said the time stone as well. So quite a few. And Tim, I'm wondering if you agree with any of those folks or if you have your own that you would choose.
No, I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon and save the time stone.
Time stone, how come?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who wouldn't want to control time? And now that we know about the time variance authority, any chance I get to meet Owen Wilson, I'm sorry, Mobius, is okay in my book.
We already have a Mobius stand. My response was that I would destroy them all. I wouldn't want to use any if I came in
Huh.
possession. I would destroy it because I don't think anybody should have the power of any of them. I did a lot of thinking, and I've often thought like, which one would I choose? You know, it wasn't a new question from your concept, but I've never been able to be like, oh, I want that one or that one. I've always been like, it's wrong to have it. So why not just get rid of them?
Oh, you're such a Boy Scout.
I'll level the playing field. So let's dive right in. And if the folks at home don't know, this is our season finale, sort of.
Ish. Yeah, you can really say it's our penultimate episode.
Indeed. And next week we get roasted by the great Gary Baker. Gary B, the casual comic guy, will be on shitting on all of our takes from this. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I think he's going to come with a lot of fire. So, Tim, starting with Infinity War, which I know I messaged you a lot of times about this week. What are your thoughts?
Oh, that's a very big question. If you know me, I am a huge fan of not this movie, but four people in it. Four people who have got done so dirty that I can't help but hate this movie. Not hate, but it's not good. The Black Order got done so dirty, and I will forever be incredibly upset about it. Their deaths were incredibly cheap and what's the other word I had? Unsatisfying. Yeah, it was. They were a joke. They could have easily been put into an end credit scene or shown like just be introduced to be. I mean, not even introduced and killed off in one movie is just upsetting to me personally. I understand why they need to be there. I wasn't looking for like fully fleshed out characters. That's what the comics are for. But for the love of my sanity, they needed more. They needed more, and it really impacted the movie for me a lot. Uh, mm, my notes are all over the place. I was just jotting them down as I was. Um, Another person who I'm very upset with in this movie is Bruce Banner. This is where I feel like Bruce hits rock bottom. This is the worst portrayal of Bruce that um, the MCU has had so far, and I just can't stand to look at Mark Ruffalo in this movie. I mean, it got better the second time I watched it, but it's still not my favorite by a long shot.
The Hulk in this movie was useless, and I get the mental component of it, and
Yeah,
I get all of that, but man, just I don't know. It wasn't. It
yeah.
wasn't.
He just comes off not. He doesn't come off as a scientist. He comes off like a bumbling like stoner
Yeah,
almost.
like
And that was
Ruffalo in real life.
yeah, and that was very apparent when they were in Wakanda and he was piloting the Hulkbuster for the first time. You're like, oh, this is amazing, man. And
Yeah.
like, come on, come on. Yeah, and yeah, he was just useless, and he wasn't even a good like exposition dump. Um, he was just he knows it's coming, and that's all he could muster in terms of dialogue. So with Bruce, I really think they missed the mark. Um, God, this is tough. This is such a big movie.
You know, I
Um,
I think it's fair to
yeah,
say, and I've gotten a lot of backlash for this in the past, but I think the Rousseau brothers were in over their heads on this one.
they were initially. I did feel like it really got better. I'm thinking of Paul and I'm thinking of Corey when I say this, but I loved Endgame. I loved Endgame because we'll talk about this more later, but they definitely had a better grasp on the sheer like scale of the type of movie that they had to make.
Well, I think it's because they knew what their end game was from the start.
A
They had this
Yeah,
buffer in between that.
yeah,
For better or for worse, I don't know that it was in the cards or if the studio wanted to stretch it to two movies. Um, I just feel like Infinity War felt like a throwaway. A lot of
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and bash the entire movie. So with that, let's start with the visuals. I absolutely loved the the settings that kind of like set the scene. Like when you see Thor deal with Nita Valier when he's making Stormbreaker,
Mhm.
gorgeous. Oh, hit my table. Um, when you see Hulk um, flying towards Earth around like the planets and stuff, that was gorgeous. This movie has a lot of gorgeous settings, and uh, it really helps again set the scale of the movie and how far this story is reaching, especially with all the different groups that we're dealing with.
Mhm. I had a lot of issues with some of the CGI. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and when you talk about the settings, I think that they completely misused Wakanda.
yes,
Uh,
yep,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Grant, I know it's supposed to be a battlefield, and you know, you need to have that kind of thing, but we got spoiled with that shot at the end of the trailer with all the people in the trees,
Yeah.
like in the forest, kind of running towards the camera with with uh, with a Hulk, mind you,
Hmm.
that we never got. Yeah, yeah, we definitely got robbed. I'm all for there being footage that we see in the trailers that doesn't end up in the movie,
Oh
but
yeah,
that was such a slap in the face, though.
yeah. I think not seeing that scene in the movie really threw me off because that would have been one of the very few scenes I would have enjoyed in the movie.
Yeah,
It's God. And I'll get more on this later when after your take. I just there are a lot of missed opportunities, I think.
Yeah. So another plus, I'm kind of doing like a sandwich, trying to balance out the negatives with the positives. Uh, the Guardians were fantastic. I feel like besides Tony, I feel like they were probably the best characters. And I do not care. I do not care if Star Lord ruined the whole movie for the characters. He was amazing.
Mm,
I loved that you still had that that human flaw of emotion, his
mhm.
his tendency to go over emotional, and I just come to love it.
I mean, there's also Doctor Strange, says there's only one
Yeah,
possibility, and he would obviously intervene if that was not going as planned. So
right,
you kind of have to accept it as is. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it was, a gut reaction, whatever. It is what it is. But just hearing that line, we know whatever happens needs to happen, which is why the movie felt like a waste to me, kind of, because it's like, all right, cool. We can just sum it up in 5 minutes there and we're good to go. Let's get to the ending.
right, yeah,
Um, so I kind of honestly, I wish, because I love that moment, I wish that would have been like one of the last scenes of the movie with Doctor Strange, explaining that part of it.
yeah,
Simply because then it wouldn't have all felt like a waste to me once I heard that.
yeah. Um, oh crap,
But no,
I was so
I think
I was
Star
so
Lord was great in this.
yeah, I was so concerned with getting all of my notes, I forgot to give it a score. Um, yeah, the battle on Titan was awesome. And something that I haven't really heard too many people mention is the movie is really comedic for like the type of situation they're in.
Mhm.
And I found that a little distracting. Granted, you need some humor with some of the characters, like the Guardians and Tony and Peter to an extent. But yeah, I just wish it was more serious than it was.
I agree.
I didn't feel satisfied with it until the very end when they start playing that slow, somber music. Um, and yeah, it's the tone. The tone, like the soundtrack, was just all over the place.
It kind of gave us some of the weakest versions of these characters by trying to throw that humor in. It really
Yeah,
got away from who some of these characters were, the development that they'd made thus far.
yep. No, I agree. They spent so much time bouncing around characters instead of um centralize on one set of characters for longer. I
Yeah.
would have loved to spend longer with the characters instead of bouncing around and trying to get even time with them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Um, but yeah, I uh, some of them I just didn't care care about. Um, None of which are coming to mind, but yeah, there were just parts that were just uninteresting.
hmm So if you were to give a score to Infinity War here, what are you looking at?
Ah, I wish I there's just so much again, there's just so much to talk about, but yeah, I know we have to get going. So I am going to give Infinity War a 7.
7?
Yep.
Gotcha. All right, that's on a
It's
lower
not
10 scale there.
yeah, it's not a movie that I would never watch again, but I would go into it knowing that it has issues.
So I think many people know I was not looking forward to this round. The CGI on Mark Ruffalo's head in the Hulkbuster was
Yep.
not only embarrassing, but it pretty much sums up the quality of the movie as a whole for me.
Awful.
Just I got the feeling, and I know that they put a lot into this, and they do a much better job than I can. But as I said, I think this just felt like a throwaway movie to me.
Yeah.
It also made the rest of the films leading up to it feel irrelevant. They gave the feeling of like, why didn't Thanos just do it himself? Like the whole time. And I mean, all these other people are failing. He can come in and just rip people apart and do it. So, what was the point of all these other movies? Yes, I understand that it was the lead up to this and that others had failed, but um, I don't know, it just made me feel like so much of the other stuff that we built on just didn't matter anymore, and that any hope we had, any love we had for certain characters meant nothing at this point because
Yeah.
it was just useless. So, um, I mean, we spent Jesus, what, 50 hours or so watching all these movies just to have it undone in a matter of like 20 minutes in a movie, and just felt, I don't know, the whole movie itself was very disjointed, and it made a lot of,
Disjointed.
yeah,
Yeah. And I saw that there were a lot of inconsistencies.
yeah,
Like for example, the one that was always glaring to me was that when Bruce crashed into the Sanctum Sanctorum, and Wong and Doctor Strange go and investigate the hole, he's Steven is already in his like classic outfit.
yeah.
Blah blah blah, magic. I get it, but you can't deny that he was in casual clothes, and then in the next shot he was in his costume.
Mhm.
Um, and and then like going back to your comment about the CGI on Titan before Thanos came, when they were just standing around like strategizing and stuff, that it was really apparent that it was green screen.
Mhm.
Um, you could just tell with the lighting on their heads, and it just didn't look good.
I mean, it felt to me like they had their B team of interns working on this movie while their
Yeah,
A team was working on Endgame, throughout it all, because I know they shot a lot, side by side and things like
yeah,
that. So, um, it's almost like they had their unproven folks and had, like I said, interns doing a lot of the work there, and maybe on the production team as well. It didn't feel like one solid movie at all, and
yeah,
bouncing around, with his henchmen trying to get all their stuff and everything else. I don't know. It just
yeah.
wasn't for me. I think the dialogue was piss poor and very cheesy too. Um, there was one exception to that. I did really like the exchange when Rhodey and Bruce were walking up to T'Challa, and
Oh, yeah,
Bruce says, "Do I bow?" I just thought that was kind of funny. Like, yeah, he's a king.
yeah,
Um, and the only reason why I thought that was funny is because there was the one white dude in Black Panther, and so it's
yeah.
you're back in Wakanda, so it was a nice callback to that movie, and then seeing White Wolf was pretty cool too.
Mhm.
I'm always going to be on the Wakanda stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I
We know.
I also like that T'Challa took the lead in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
only because in the comics, he's so huge, and in the MCU we didn't see him much. Um, but that aspect of it was huge because it was, a nod to like you're in his area now, so he's going to be up front and center. He opened up the
mm,
gates and all that stuff. So I actually like that as opposed to them trying to make Cap like at the forefront, the whole time, because it wasn't Cap's area. So I like that sense of mindfulness of it.
yeah.
I don't think they captured Wakanda well enough at all
Not in the slightest. No.
as a movie. And I remember getting shit on by all of my friends when we saw this movie, because they're like, "Oh, it was so cool, it was so cool," and I was like, I think I'm done with the MCU at this point, because it just felt like such a letdown to me, to be honest. It didn't live up to the hype. I remember I had the posters. I bought the movie posters with my movie points from theater. All that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, Regal. Yeah,
Yeah, I was so hyped. I went back and I read the Infinity Gauntlet. Like all this stuff, and it just felt like such a throwaway movie that it actually killed my excitement for so much of the MCU.
yeah.
And I give it a 4, to be honest.
Really
Yeah, I don't think
nice.
it didn't come anywhere near the payoff that we had invested this time for. We were at what was it, 18 movies up till then, or you know I think it was around 18.
No, because Far From Home was the 22nd.
So Far From Home was the 22nd. So we were at,
Don't quote me on that.
so yeah, this would have been 18. This would have been the 18th movie. Um, so think about all the time we put in just to have that undone within the first 20 minutes of a movie, and then these
Yeah,
characters just powerless. Where the hell were you? Kind of like everybody's making the jokes about the Eternals now. Like, where have you been this whole time?
yeah,
So with Thanos, it's like, well, where were you all this other time when everybody was fucking up below you? Like, what was the point of all of this?
yeah. I talked to you briefly about this, and it also didn't help the movie in the fact that just the transitions were non-existent between all the scenes. They were just hard cuts, and it wasn't even like an overlay of music from the next scene. They did it once with Rubber Band Man, um, but they never did it since. And it's just like, I don't want to say it's amateurish because I know I can't make a movie like this, but um, it, it just wasn't
No,
good.
I get what you're saying because Zoe's in third grade now, and she has a new music program that she's working on the computer with, and she's able to record stuff, stop it, create loops, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Her editing is much like what I experienced with this movie, where it makes no sense, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder, or
yeah.
just it's just good enough to turn an assignment in, which is what she says. So, um, yeah, it was a fail for me. It's one of my lowest rated ones. It's one that I don't foresee myself watching again unless I'm, in something like this. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit on that. I know Corey and Paul said it's the best MCU movie. I don't know why, and usually I agree with Corey on a lot of stuff. And uh, Paul, admitted that it's his favorite MCU movie. So okay, I get why he might be a bit biased if that was his favorite one.
I'd
Um,
love to hear from them as to why it's their favorite movie.
I would too,
Comment
because
below.
yes, definitely comment below. I've often been the odd man out when I say how much I despise this movie. No, it's so great, but then they don't say why. So I would love to hear why. But I don't want to sit here and shit on the movie. I think we have a lot of good discussion when it comes to Endgame. A lot more. I had a lot more notes about Endgame than I did Infinity War because I just like the producers and directors of Endgame or of Infinity War. I just said, what's the point? So
Just remember, I still like the movie. He doesn't.
that's right. But
So,
only
so
kind
there
of
is no
like the movie.
there is no we in this in the hate that's to follow. I'm sure.
No, we're a united front. We are together. We're
Okay. All right.
um,
But yeah, I want to get your take on Endgame first.
you want me to go first?
Yeah.
I
You don't
really
go
love,
first.
and I got a different appreciation of this scene after watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I actually really love seeing Cap doing the crisis counseling with the folks after the snap. Oh, disclaimer for folks. I actually despised Infinity War the first time I saw it, like hated it. And so you may be surprised about my take on it moving forward here. I just want to kind of disclose that in the beginning here. Because I found that there was a lot to love. I think when I watched it, I was still bitter about Infinity War. I was still bitter about how bad Captain Marvel was and just how much of a letdown we had kind of had between films after Black Panther, I guess. So, because we had Ragnarok and Black Panther back to back, and then whatever they want to call what they gave us. So I think I was still a little bit bitter. But I'm really glad we did this. I'm really glad that we did the rewatch.
Yeah.
I'd only watched it one time prior to this. So that Cap crisis counseling scene, it hit a totally different way now that I saw Falcon and Winter Soldier because, Sam having that experience, that background, and how important the mental health stuff is. And that was the beginning of Marvel really starting to tackle that. My critique, though, is they acknowledged just how absurd the idea of time travel was, but then proceeded to give us an absurd time travel montage. And I know it's like tongue in cheek and like supposed to be laughable, but that just, I think I was telling you during the week, I'm all about quality, not quantity. So if I can shorten a movie in any way, I would like to. And that's one of those areas I would cut out. I will say Hulk with the taco, I wasn't a big fan of this offering of Bruce, but him with that taco was just one of my favorite scenes. A, I love tacos, and B, it was just a fun moment, between him and Paul Rudd. I think Tony's swan song was a nice send off. I know folks get really emotional about it, but I think Yondu still had the best send off of any character in the MCU. Much more ceremonial,
I sobbed at both. I
Yeah.
can't pick.
I just something about it, as iconic as the loss of Tony Stark is, I don't think that the scenes captured that gravity. I don't think the funeral did. I don't.
Well, it's all in the it's all in the soundtrack, I think, because with Yandu, you had Cat Stevens singing father and son,
Yeah.
while it's focusing on Peter. But you can't deny. Well, maybe you can, but I can't deny that I loved the soundtrack for Endgame, especially that scene, especially the music during the funeral. Oh,
Mhm.
it it will forever pull at my heartstrings.
No, it was solid. I just you're losing an iconic character, and it just didn't feel the gravity just wasn't there to me. Um, I don't know. It's just it felt too simple to me. I guess I can't. I had a hard time finding the words for it, but I think simple is the way that I would see it. Um, my other critique is they don't address who makes Bruce enormous clothes now that he's rocking regular clothing. Where is his clothing line? Who the hell is making these things? Because he's now regular Hulk.
Probably himself if he's so smart.
Maybe, but I want to know. That's a detail I would like them to spend some time on. I got to know.
Maybe one of those 7 PhDs was in home ec. I don't know. I'm not in school anymore.
I just they never address him wearing these clothes, and he's larger than the largest basketball. Yes, because that's his new normal. That's his new normal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this new normal. Um, I hated the Ronin intro. That just didn't feel like it fit at all. It felt like a teaser trailer for a separate project in the middle of a movie, like one of those random. It's like one of those random ads that pop up on YouTube while you're doing an aerobics video or something. Like it just didn't. It didn't fit there, and then you have to wait the 30 seconds for the ad to pass. Like that's that's what it felt like.
It just wasn't necessary. It didn't go anywhere except
No.
like I told you in our messages. I did kind of think his look was awesome after he got back to the compound. But like I like the fact that they focused on him and his family in the intro, and it was a clean sun intro to them.
I think I would have rather had them, where you been? Oh, I've been through some shit, and then he has a flashback. Make it make sense. Don't just cut to this, because Jesus, that just didn't make sense and didn't fit. It was just this, I don't know, brooding, angry dude.
Yeah, it was just fan service.
I will say I really liked the scene with Hulk on the elevator. It's the first time we saw that, and that was just such a fun scene. And really, this last time we saw Hulk as the Hulk, kind of, that enjoyable one. That was just really fun to me. It's definitely also got my favorite Stan Lee cameo. I love that hippie Stan Lee.
Make love, not war.
Yes, that was amazing. But that was also just so, Stan soapbox kind of stuff, and so that callback, it's just amazing. How can you not love the stuff with Tony and his dad? I mean, just God, that alone right there makes a movie for me. That melts me right there. That's the level of art that I wanted for his death. Like just that level of just all in the feels.
I have to give it to the original actor for Howard Stark, the chap that we saw in First Avenger.
Oh yeah.
But and again, I come unprepared with the names. The guy who's currently playing Howard Stark, pardon my French, he's fucking phenomenal. I loved it. Loved everything about that scene.
And it's the chemistry between the two is just so great. And even I think this was the best acting from Robert Downey in that role, because like when he's all shaken up, when they come face to face and all that stuff. I mean, that was some top-notch shit right there. Something that really got me was Thanos and Nebula. They land and Thanos says, "Find the stones and bring them to me." And Nebula says, "What will you do?" And Thanos says, "Wait." And given what we just saw in Endgame, given in Infinity War, given the fact that we saw him wait and see stuff not happen, it's like, what the hell? Like, if it's so important to you, just stop sitting on the rock and wait and, go get this shit. And, I get the agenda there. It just wasn't, it was done to create the scene where everybody attacks when they fight. But if you really want these stones, man, just go fucking get them. Like, we've spent how many movies on this? Like, just do it already. Stop counting on somebody else to do your bidding.
But what's a couple more minutes?
Well, no, because he's already learned that he can't depend on any way to do it. So just freaking go do it, because it actually makes him look stupid in many ways, and like he hasn't learned a lesson either. So that part just bugs me, I guess. And maybe it shouldn't, but the Cap versus Thanos fight scene was absolutely magnificent when he's beating the shield with the hammer and just. I will say I had no shit moment when he got the hammer, and I love when Thor's like, I knew it, because this whole time it's been a pissing match with Thor and everybody else about who's the most powerful and all that stuff, and then that's just pretty fucking special. That Avengers Assemble moment, absolutely epic. I'm guessing you can suspect my favorite intro in that scene.
Yeah, it's really.
T'Challa, sure, Koye roll up. But it does, in that same scene, it seems a little bit late for Thanos' army to just be getting there. Like it's where was this? Where were they before when all this shit's going down? Why were they not helping them? So it's
Well,
that.
because he didn't need help. I mean, uh, Thor and Iron Man were out of commission, and Cap was down to half a shield.
But Thanos isn't also going to show restraint for getting what he wants. Like he went in Infinity War, he went and decimated all this shit just to chase these, and so he's not going to all of a sudden be like, you know what, I don't need those resources. I'm gonna see what I can do unlimited.
Well, he had them on standby, clearly.
Yeah, it felt like a waste to me because they would have rolled through their 5 minutes Thanos style. He would have gotten it, and boom, he'd accomplished his goal. He's not on a Walmart budget trying to look at hours for the week. He's Thanos with this fucking army there to accomplish a goal. So
you and your nitpicks.
That part really felt wasted to me because I was just like, what the hell are they doing here? They could have actually even formed a perimeter to stop all these other people. It felt like such a waste to me to have that much of an army that you would have travel with you to not use them to begin with. Like, come on, man. I personally am really sick of Scott turning into Giant Man. I don't think it looks good visually whenever they do it, and it just looks so out of place in these scenes. And I almost feel like it's the default for like, hey, we need an Ant-Man minute. Let's throw him in as that. And I think that the CGI of Ant-Man when he goes small and all that stuff is great, but Giant Man's not a good look for me.
Well, I think it's to show contrast and give a little bit more variety in their charge towards Thanos' army.
Yeah. I think it's more the one-on-one fight scenes that I don't like when they do it.
It was cool to see them. When that flying snake thing when he straight up just punched in the face. That was awesome, and it was a really creative second death for Call Obsidian. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's just kind of clunky when they do it. I don't think it's executed well yet.
He's a big guy. How can he not be clunky?
I love the scene where the women all come together. I think that's cheesy in many ways how they do it, but
yeah,
it's awesome as a whole.
Awesome. Yeah, just to see Okoye stab Corvus Glaive right in the heart straight up and just flip him. I don't know if you noticed, but as Thanos' army was disappearing, you could see Proxima Midnight cradling him in the background. I thought that was a really nice touch.
It was very cool, and I didn't notice that the first time around. It wasn't until I was on my TV, at home watching.
Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, they're actually husband and wife. And that wasn't very apparent in Infinity War. Not that was a detail that needed to be in there, but it was. I really liked it.
Yeah, no, that was a nice moment. I wish I noticed that the first time around. Captain Marvel's entrance was just ridiculous. It should have and could have been sooner. I know that in her movie she talks about, or what was it, Infinity War? She talks about there were other planets to save or whatever. But
I think Gary just perked up a little bit hearing you say that. He sensed the disturbance.
Jesus Christ, that not only did her movie feel like a waste when they did it, but her character being as powerful as she is, having the knowledge that she has, having the ability to be there, to not show up until then, I know they were trying to do it to put her on this level of they need her. It just didn't do it for me. It just felt forced in a lot of ways.
The only thing that didn't do it for me was her Karen hair. Her the short hair that they gave her just didn't look good. But I appreciate them doing it because it is a look that she does have.
It's weird. It looked cooler in the helmet when they did it. In the helmet, was that in?
Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really cool in the helmet, but
from her own movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about it was just off on this one, but I mean, the scene she just comes through and boom goes through the ship and.
Oh, I thought that was pretty cool.
No, it looked cool, but it was just a little too late for me. I don't know. thought Rescue was a really nice culmination, bringing everything full circle for Pepper. Uh, I, after we rewatched those Iron Man movies and she was in the suit fighting and all that stuff, I had new appreciation for that. I just think that that moment, we watched one story arc end and we watched
Mhm.
another culminate in a way where she could come back or it could be done, but we're good either way. I just thought that
Yeah.
was kind of cool, and that was a nice nod to Tony too, and a really good use of Pepper because I'd hate to see this movie without her involvement in some way like that, as opposed to just brooding Pepper Potts. So um,
Yeah.
the only thing I didn't really care for, and I know it seems like the list is big, but to be honest, it's almost a 4-hour movie, so there's some stuff not like. Gamora coming blindly to join the battle, even though she has no idea what's going on or the gravity of it, really doesn't make sense to me. I didn't like Gamora or Nebula in this movie. Um, I get the Nebula arc and it made sense what they had to do with the movie, but the Gamora thing made absolutely no freaking sense, especially after the scene with Peter, where she has no idea who he is, and now she's gonna blindly go into this fight. Just
Well, and then she just disappears after that scene.
yeah, but she's gonna blindly go into this fight to fight against Thanos, who she just learned in a different world she didn't care for anymore. It's just I get what they're trying to do. It just didn't work for me. And I didn't like it. I would have much rather been like, I'm not going to do this for you. That's why I'm fighting against you, as opposed to like, here I am with this army that I just met, and yeah, cool, go us. So I felt like that was kind of a waste. And to be honest, I actually liked Gamora dead at that point, not because I don't like Zoe Saldana or the
Ow.
character. I'm big on if they're dead, they're dead. And I know that's not how comic books work. I know it's not how the movies work. But when it comes to this stuff, that was such an iconic scene. I leave it there. And I know that we couldn't have really just left her there and then just had Thanos back, because that wouldn't have really made sense either, given everything that's happening in that timeline. I get that, but just what they did with her in this film, I almost wouldn't have minded if she was just killed off again by like the Avengers and just that's it.
Nice.
So yeah. But with all that said, the culmination of this, what was it, 3 hours and 4 minutes? The runtime, is that what it is?
I think so.
I was trying to measure during pee breaks, because I'm old and those happen. I actually thoroughly enjoy this movie, and it's funny because a lot of people seem to like Infinity War and have all their critiques with Endgame, but I think that my critiques in the grand scheme of things were very minimal when it comes to this movie, and they were momentary, like a minute or two, and that's it. So I actually ended up giving this movie an 8 when before I had it lower than Infinity War. Because there is so much heart in this movie, and I was heartless while watching it the first time around because I was just so burnt out and let down by all the previous films. But yeah, it's a really, really strong movie. I don't think they utilize each character the best that they can, but I think that they tried to make up for some of the ineptitude that they had in Infinity War, and I think that
Yeah.
they're cognizant of the things that they lacked in that movie, and I think they make up for that a lot. I think the choreography for the fight scenes was really solid for the most part. Um, yeah, they dabbled in a lot of different comic arcs for each character, but I think that background digging was very evident in a
Mhm.
lot of this, especially like Professor Hulk and things like that. So though it may not have been my favorite versions of the characters, they actually did their homework on this one, and I give them
Yeah.
a lot of credit for that. And I think the CGI was made much better, and it was a dark movie in terms of settings and lighting, but it wasn't the dark where you can't see anything. So they actually balanced that out really well, which has been one of
Yeah.
my big complaints about most of the film. So yeah, I give it an 8.
Cool.
So from you, my friend, where you at?
Well, I'm gonna say Endgame was infinitely better than Infinity War. Yeah, I adore this movie. Just everything got um, such an upgrade from Infinity War. Just everything that I complained about with Infinity War was fixed. Honestly, the interactions with all the different characters were better. The soundtrack made more sense and was actually good. Um, and I I loved everything except the only thing I didn't care for, and I'm just gonna get this out of the way now. Just everything to do with 2014 Thanos and Nebula. I could care less about. That was the part for me that dragged and was kind of boring. Um, so from the beginning until they cut to Rhodey and Nebula doing their thing on Morag was fantastic. Everything up until the snap with the nano gauntlet to the end was
Mhm.
fantastic. Everything in between was not as good. With that being said, I loved everything to do with the time travel. I don't care how it works, just as long as you make it interesting. Um, and they definitely did that. Um, New York, um, New York, Morag, uh, and the 70s. Fantastic. I loved every minute of it. And going to the 70s, I loved that little scene with Cap looking through the window at Peggy. Um, and just his facial Chris Evans' facial expressions were
Yeah.
just phenomenal, if only just for a second. And Hank Pym, oh my gosh, I love the de-aging CGI was great,
That was a
but
cool moment.
that gravelly voice they has now just mm, did didn't quite work the way they wanted, but it was a cute, funny little scene.
Yeah.
But the biggest takeaway that I have from this scene in the 70s is that uh, that quote that Tony said to his dad from his dad. Um, no amount of money ever bought a second of time.
Yeah.
I love that to death. Like I almost want that tattooed on me. It's so great.
Hey, let me know. I'll
Um,
get that one with you too.
yeah, it's such a incredibly heartfelt scene, and these these movies didn't do any justice with keeping me from loving Tony even more. Um, he, this was I feel like it was at his peak. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a little ambitious, but
I
I
feel
love him
like
in this movie.
I don't know. It just his acting as a whole
Yeah,
just really just. I think he just was that role at this point. He was Tony. You know, there
yeah.
was no separation. He was
Nope.
Tony.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and another little critique is that I feel like they played out the bro Thor, bro Thor, a little bit too much. Not not too much. Not like not a lot. Over. What am I trying to say? Just a smidge too much. Just a smidge. I love that scene in the compound when they're trying to figure out where the stones are at any given time, and they just cut to him sitting in the corner with that vibra slap sound. Just gets me every time. Every time, I love that scene so much. Um, is he asleep? No, I think he's dead. Um,
You know, I forgot to mention. So that Thor that we get,
yeah.
I was doing the rewatch, and Zoe came down. She was, Dad, that looks just like you, and she forgot the first time around when she watched it that she fucking thing. Um, so Beerbod Thor, she said we have the same body. She said if she knew how to take a picture and put it on somebody else, that she would take a picture of me without a shirt on and put it on him. It would look identical. So my kid's an asshole, but I sidetrack.
um, so yeah, it's evident now that I loved everything to do with the movie. I just want to touch on the final battle, just quick, and I'm totally bullshitting this because I had about less than a quarter of the notes that I had for Infinity War, and just speaking from here right now, I loved the final battle. I loved picking out Star Lord in the big lineup of everyone and following them in the shot in the I guess it's pretty much a tracking shot of just seeing all the ships and Giant Man and everyone just charging. And it was cool to see like Iron Patriot and Iron Man and Star Lord all in the air, just slightly above everyone running. And it was cool to pick out your favorite heroes and track them into that battle. And there's no way it's never going to give me chills for the rest of my life.
Valkyrie has my heart.
Yeah. Yep. This was a piece of cinematic history and a fucking piece of art. It was a masterpiece of a fight scene, in my opinion. The big three fighting Thanos was absolutely phenomenal. Nice fluid choreography to the fight scenes, with not too many cuts, and that's probably the part that I really enjoyed. No sloppy editing this time around.
Yeah.
And it was just a nice transition from the three of them to the actual battle, and they did a good job of bouncing around to different characters during the battle.
Much better this time around than what we saw in Infinity War.
Yeah. And I liked the callback to Thanos and his original monologue, talking about how it turns the lights to jelly, which is why he sat down before he disappeared, and that was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And as much as we've trashed on these movies, Josh Brolin, man, he's about as much Thanos as Robert Downey Jr. is to Tony.
Yeah, and you look at the long con, man, like how long he stuck around for this role, and he just dug his heels in. Like, props to him. I mean, just can't separate the two. It's just perfect.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Endgame a 9.5 for me.
Wow.
I gotta do it.
That's pretty.
I'd be lying to myself if I gave it anything less than that.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, just the emotional moments were just done so perfectly, and it's a movie that keeps me interested, engaged, and it keeps me glued the entire time, and I couldn't appreciate that more.
So what's wild is that was our highest rated movie.
Yeah.
And in phase 3, the average score now for all these 11 movies is 7.386. Even with those high marks for that movie. And I don't want to end things on a negative note. I just want to say that I hope that Marvel executives, if you're listening, I know you're not, step up your game with a lot of these films, because the rewatches aren't as great, but there are gems like Endgame or Ragnarok, Black Panther, that sort of thing. And it's interesting. So when I look at the phases now, this was 7.3, 7.6 was phase 2, and 6.2 was phase 1. So it looks like we actually favored the phase that had our lowest scored movie in the Dark World. But that Iron Man 3, Guardians, and Ant-Man and Winter Soldier actually carried much of our love of the MCU here. So that's pretty fascinating to me. Now, I know people might think that we are wrapping it up or that our time is done, but next week we will have a special guest for what will be our mid-season finale. We will have the great Gary Baker on, Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy, and he's going to tell us everything we got wrong, and it's going to be a blast. Please tune in for that, and I'm just really looking forward to it, because we talk to Gary all the time in the comic shop, and I know that I've had many students tell me I'm completely wrong and that Tim is right. I've had people tell us that our takes are wrong, so I love to hear it. It's a fun debate to always have, and after next week, Tim and I won't be signing off for good. We're going to come back and revisit the MCU shows after Loki. We're doing an episode for each show, but we're gonna take some time to regroup and get some notes going, and we will be talking about each episode of Loki on No Coast Defenders starting Monday. I think it'll drop Tuesday.
Yep.
And we'll have some stuff here and there, but we're gonna take a little time off between the end of Loki and Black Widow, and just get some new material out to you guys. But we also have a giveaway in the works.
Yep.
So not going to spoil it. Not going to say what it is. We're still figuring it all out, but there will be a giveaway for folks, and we'll come up with all the rules and all that stuff. But just another reason to listen and check in.
Yeah.
Tim, we set out and talked about this for the last 3 years, and we finally did it.
We did it. Yeah.
Congrats, my friend. We just watched 50 something hours of films in a matter of, oh God, what is it? 10 weeks? Not even.
Some of it was a chore, but
yeah,
I still had so much fun doing it.
It was quite the journey. I enjoy doing it with you, my friend. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. And
Same here.
I look forward to our future episodes, and I look forward to next week with Gary coming in hot. So I'm going to wear goggles and chest protector, just for the hits he's going to be throwing out. But looking forward to it. It's going to be a great conversation. Just a reminder to everybody, support your local comic shop.
Yep.
I don't have any plugs other than that this week. The weather's getting nice. Sidewalk sales are about to start. Just go out and support your local comic shop any chance you get. If you're in the Rochester area, check out Rhino's Comics. If you're in Brockport, check out Collectibles and More. If you're in Gates, check out First Print Comics. Tim, any local comic shop shout outs?
No, you pretty much got all of them, but I just want to emphasize the fact that we want to hear from you.
We do.
We've heard from a ton of people, and we just want to keep it coming. We value all of your opinions, however wrong they may be. But that's what this is all about. We're not just here to, talk ourselves. We want to hear you guys, and we want you getting engaged and participate. Just like in the classroom, forced participation. But really, we value all your opinions, and we just want to hear stuff that might even change our perspectives. So anything you got, please leave down there.
Without a doubt.
We look forward to reading it.
Tim, my friend, it's been special.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I will reunite with you on Monday on No Coast Defenders.
Yep.
And thank you for taking this voyage with me. It's been fantastic.
Of course.
And I look forward to many more journeys with you.
All right, Captain.
All right, much love, sir.
All right, see you, bud.